Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Making Fun review of Captain America Civil War. My name is Casey Johnson. That's Richey.
Nope. See, here's the issue. Here's what happens when you're like, no, Casey, I'm going to do the intro. Don't get me wrong. You're supposed to moderate this entire thing, so it would make more sense for you to do the intro, and then you say the wrong names, and I'm taking it over. You're never doing an intro again.
I'm just used to hearing your name first, so.
Right, exactly. Last night we saw Captain America Civil War.
Yes, we
did. We both had a night to kind of sleep on it and think about it. So we are going to handle this the same way that we handled the Batman v Superman review, except with the caveat of not being long and rambling.
Yeah. And I mean, that was our first review of a movie, so.
And it was like 1 a.m.
Yeah, we didn't really have.
We didn't think that through.
No, we didn't.
But either way, so we're going to start off with a smaller
spoiler-free.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna start out with the spoiler-free version of the review, which I mean. Probably run about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to make this an hour-long review. So, I guess, Casey, let's get to it. So, this movie was fantastic.
It really, really was. It was a great movie.
And I get yelled at every day because I say I love Batman v Superman. Everyone tells me that I have terrible taste. This was Batman v Superman done right.
Yeah.
And you said that last night, and it opened my eyes a little bit more. And I mean, for what Batman v Superman was setting up for, they did a rather decent job for what they were going for.
Yeah.
But this is Marvel we're talking about. Marvel hasn't messed up when it comes to the actual cinematic universe. So, from start to finish, the movie was really good. Like it had,
from start to 75% of the way through the movie. Let's be clear.
We'll get on that later, and I'll let you touch base on that one here in a bit. So what? I'll let you start asking the questions because I don't want to give anything spoiler wise.
So I mean, I'll say it absolutely mixed in humor the right way.
Yes.
As they always do.
One character did an even amazing job.
That is correct. And I mean, everybody knows Spider-Man was going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is excellent. We'll get into why in the spoiler. But seriously.
I giggled like the entire time.
Yeah, well, you just love Spider-Man.
That's true. He's my favorite superhero. But
either way, definitely see this movie.
Oh yeah.
Go and see this movie.
I'm gonna go see it again.
It's very, very good for the most part, and the gripes I have with it aren't anything that really are that substantial. It really is a very, very good movie. So I think with that we'll head sort of into the spoiler part. So we're now moving into the spoiler section. If you have not seen this movie yet, this video will still be here once you have seen this movie. Watch the movie, then come back. This is your last chance.
We're giving you 5 seconds.
Okay, so overall, and I've got to say, and we'll get to Spider-Man. Trust me, Spider-Man will be his own segment here. But I do want to talk a little bit about the overall tone of the movie.
Yes.
Because it was very much your classic Avengers kind of theme from it. But I love the way that they worked in humor constantly.
Yeah.
And it felt like the dark parts that needed to be dark were dark, but at the same time
there was a little bit of humor in it.
Yeah, and then it didn't detract, like it still stayed dark.
Yeah. Like well, I'll touch on that later because that's towards the end of the movie. Like the one scene that that made me laugh, but it was kind of heartbreaking.
Right.
Was and it doesn't have to do with that character, but Stan Lee's cameo. Like, it was kind of like my heart's kind of breaking, and then Stan Lee shows up, and I was like, okay, my heart's warm again.
Right.
It's super funny.
Yeah. I mean, are you Tony Stank?
Oh, Stan Lee, I love you.
But yeah, and I mean, overall, even I felt like they did a great job, and obviously the big set piece here is the battle.
Yes. And it took quite a bit. I wouldn't say like a huge chunk of the movie, but leading up to that point and after, it was awesome. Like, we knew it wasn't going to be a super hour-long fight,
right?
But it was a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I really liked the whole. These are people that know each other so well fighting, and they made that evident with the whole, are we still friends? And
Clinton, Natasha. Nah.
Yeah, it just, and it felt like, for the set piece of the movie, it felt like really a lighthearted moment, which is weird in that that sort of setting. But I really
and to be clear, this isn't the typical Civil War. This is it is the MCU's version of the Civil War. I mean, with the normal Civil War, the actual comic, we have Captain Marvel, the Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, which, I mean, we are getting Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And what was it, November?
I think so.
November or October, one of the two. And someone, like I said, ends up dead at the end of the Civil War.
Right.
So they did a great job. They really did. They showed the tearing apart between the friendship of Tony and Steve, and then how they tried to fix it, and then everything just goes to hell.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say 2 points lined up in the can. Number one, as far as the battle is concerned, I think we've all seen the image floating around Facebook of the Civil War battle lines being drawn in the comic books versus in the movie. They did a fantastic job of making this fight feel big.
Yes. And literally feel big.
Yes.
Gigantic, man.
Yes. Which, when that happened, and Tony's like, does anybody on my team have any really awesome stuff that they just want to throw out, because now's the time? Like
I was expecting that we would get, because Scott Lang is Ant-Man / Giant Man, and I was expecting we'd get that probably in Ant-Man 2. I wasn't expecting that in this movie. So when he was like, I tried it in a lab and I passed out, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Spider-Man. Oh.
Not yet.
I know. But the swinging around.
Yeah. Which that'll be more of a character piece just entirely, but I really like the way that they figured out how to I really like the way that the arguments were laid out in the beginning to set up the crux of the issue. Nobody felt weak. Everybody made fantastic points. And as the viewer, they did a really, really good job of making you feel for both sides and finding it hard to actually choose.
And this is where I say I trust the MCU. That's why I don't have any doubts in Doctor Strange. I mean, everyone's skeptical about Benedict Cumberbatch being Dr. Stephen Strange. I'm fine with it. I think that it's going to be a great movie. I trust the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I trusted them when they chose Tom Holland to play Spider-Man. I was like, I have faith in them. I know they won't disappoint. And I said that back when when they first showed the image, or when they first released footage of Spider-Man coming in, taking the shield from Cap. It was fantastic, and I wasn't let down whatsoever.
Right.
And in the car, we said, hey, what was your least favorite moment?
Right.
What was your least favorite moment? I know I'm going to do a little bit of a crossover because it's Paul Rudd here, but I was sad that there was a lack of Sex Panther jokes.
Right.
It was there, Casey. It was
Well,
there.
I mean, he's not Deadpool.
I know.
Like, if he were playing Deadpool, there would have been so many Anchorman jokes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, he's not that character, so we can't expect that from him.
But he's Brian.
He's not, though.
I know, he's Scott Lang.
I mean, if he's going to mention that, he may as well mention his role on Friends as Crap Bag.
True.
First name Crap, last name Bag.
I forgot about that.
If you ever forget my name, just picture a bag full of crap. Excellent. He's always been so.
I love Paul Rudd.
But no, I mean, I really like the way that they started integrating new people to come in on the fight, where they get Ant-Man. There's like, yeah, we're outside of the law on this one. He's like,
what's new?
Yeah, exactly. And the way that he was, they never hinted at at Ant-Man. He's just sleeping in the back of that van.
Which, I mean, the only hint we got at him is if you had seen Ant-Man, him and Falcon fought.
Right.
And when Anthony Mackie's like, I know a guy. I was like, he's going to be Scott. It's going to be Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
And just the introduction with Scott meeting Steve Rogers for the first time. Mm-hmm. That was funny. And then, what's he call him? Tic Tac.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on.
Which, I mean, he... With the Tic Tac, the snide remarks at Bucky, he shines so bright in this film.
And he got a lot of crap. I even gave him some crap because he was like, oh, I'm the best part of the Avengers. I was like, Anthony Mackie, you need to shut your bird mouth. Mm-hmm. You're tough you're touching tough waters right now.
But I'll say he was probably my favorite character in this movie.
Well, we know who mine was.
I mean, yeah, it definitely was.
Anthony Mackie, I've always enjoyed his performances. He's always been a great actor. I will say that he was a very comedic role in this one.
And he got his comedic stuff in. He got his serious stuff in. But just all of the I think some of the funniest moments are just the most serious moments with him opening his mouth once.
Yeah.
Just the
moments when he fights between him and Bucky, those were really funny. Yeah. And like anytime it was Falcon and Bucky, it was really, really enjoyable. Like, what is her name? It's Peggy's niece. It's Agent 13. That's all I remember her as. But when her and Steve kiss, when he's getting the gear back, and you just see Falcon and Bucky in the back just going.
Yeah, that. It was, and for me too, thinking back to they're all arrested in the van, and then Black Panther's up there, and he just goes, "So you like cats?" Like, dude, seriously. Oh, so he shows up dressed like a cat, and you don't want to know anymore, because I feel like that's how it would happen in real life.
Black Panther.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to see Black Panther before the standalone movie.
Did not, because the whole thing with Black Panther, where Black Panther was essentially going to replace the role of Spider-Man, and then they got Spider-Man, and then Black Panther's still going to be in there. It's like, oh, what are they going to do with Black Panther? And he was such a significant part of this movie.
Didn't disappoint. And when they announced there is going to be a significant death in this movie, I had 3 picks for who it was going to be. Because Black Panther was in the movie, I was like, the King of Wakanda. Mm-hmm. Nick Fury or Steve Rogers.
Right.
One of those three is going to die. My first pick was correct. Because, I mean, that's how he takes up... He doesn't necessarily take up the mantle in this movie because of his father. He was already kind of...
Right.
The Black Panther, because we see him jump across the room to get to his dad before the bomb blows up, and I was like, oh, so he's already the Panther. Now he's the king.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yes, and it's so cool that they made him so cool. And we were on our way out of the theater, and there were those couple behind us, and they were like, I love the fact that they made Black Panther so cool. I don't even like him in the comic books, and I loved him here.
I didn't even know who Black Panther was. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm an avid Marvel reader. I didn't know who Black Panther was until I was about in the 6th grade. My dad, for my birthday, bought me Ultimate Avengers 2. I saw the first one. It was one of the Marvel animated movies, the few that they have. And Black Panther was one of the main characters, and I was like, I got to do a little more research on him. I like him. He was always a great character. I was just never a huge fan of him.
Right.
And then definitely helped, especially the after credit scene where we actually see the jungles of Wakanda for the first time.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous. And I made the Jungle Book laugh because I was like, oh, we get to see Mowgli now. Even though they're in India.
So moving on from that very quickly, Spider-Man.
Yay.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm saying this. Don't think you'll have any issue with me saying it. Easily the best on-screen adaptation of Spider-Man I've ever seen in my life.
We've always got it was kind of like with Batman. We've never gotten a great Bruce Wayne and a great Batman together in one movie until Ben Affleck. He did a great job as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Tom Holland did a great job as Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I think...
Because Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. They just weren't the opposites.
Which I think until now, they haven't found a way... And it's kind of the same thing with... The other two characters that come to mind are Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark, where you've got to figure out a way to make that character endearing.
And Robert Downey Jr. has done a fantastic job.
Right, as have the writers. And I think one of the main gripes that people have always had with Spider-Man is that he's a douchebag.
Yeah.
And he's got those, because, they need humor and levity to be in there even during the fighting, right? And he was always so, and this is my opinion, he was always so witty and, really put down the people that he was fighting. And it always, to me, it just came off really douchey. And that was one aspect of his character I never liked. And they got to figure out a way, as we're looking at this movie, to figure out how to make him, still Spider-Man with still all of the traits of Spider-Man and the witty remarks and stuff, but demeaning, but, maybe not demeaning, and then find out a way to make him good. And they did that brilliantly through making him this, starstruck teenager.
And this is really his first, time actually going up against any other heroes, because we see it when we first see Peter, it was a side story to where Tony goes and recruits him.
Yeah.
And the flirting between him and Aunt May was ridiculously funny. That was awesome. And then Tony shows the footage of him swinging through, and he's got the original Spider-Man suit of just the goggles and the beanie or ski masky cuts in. And then we actually see him in the Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right. And it's...
everyone was complaining to CGI. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
It
really made a lot more sense in the full
aspect of the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, they managed to throw in all of his humor, but not in a douchey way, which I love. And because he is just this starstruck teenager who he swings in, he's like, Captain America, big fan.
Okay.
Hi.
Big fan. No, we don't need to do that. Let's.
Yeah, and then the whole, you have a robot arm? That's awesome. Like, he's just a teenager who's been looking up to these guys for so long.
The one that got me the most wasn't even one we saw in the trailer. It was when he is like up on the side of the. It's kind of like a kiosk almost, and he's just sitting there and he's talking to Falcon, and he goes, "You've never really been in a fight before, have you? Let's talk more fighting."
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, let's."
Yeah, and I'd love to see how that develops over the next movies that he's in, because it's like. I'm sure those witty remarks and stuff will happen, but they will make sense because he's learning how, but he can't shut up. Whereas, every other adaptation we've had has just had them from the beginning, and that doesn't match, in my opinion, the
Spider-Man manual.
Yeah.
I will say, Tom Holland, for what he does, and because I'm sure Tom Holland was nervous when filming.
Yeah, totally.
But he's an actual gymnast. Mm-hmm. So some of the flips and stuff he was doing did without wires.
Right.
But the after credit scene, very last after credit scene of the movie is him laying on his bed, and Aunt May goes, "So who was the guy that beat you up? Oh, his name was Steve." I was like, really?
Yeah, and then his friend was huge.
Which I forgot to address that.
No, you definitely do.
Okay.
Because that was one of my favorite movie moments I've ever seen.
So we see Ant-Man go huge, and we just see Peter crawling all over him. And
keep in mind, they've seen this if they're watching this. So.
Yeah. But, sometimes people don't really care about
They're not forgetting this moment. I'm sorry, they're not forgetting.
No, I mean, some people actually might watch this without caring about the spoilers. Because I have friends that are like that, actually.
That is completely their fault.
Yeah. So that's why I was setting it up that way. But with him swinging around, and he was like, "Hey, have you guys seen that old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? When they're on the snow planet?" And I was just sitting there, I was like, Hoth. Yeah. They were on Hoth.
And
the Walker things, AT-ATs.
And they're all like, seriously?
How old is this kid?
Yeah.
That's Rhodey's line. He's like, "Tony, how old is this kid?" Well, he's on the young side.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh, he actually might be onto something." Mm-hmm. I was like...
And then it totally worked.
It worked so well.
Because, because that's going to be, your only way, if you're that group of people, to take down Giant Man.
Yeah.
And if they had done that without throwing something with Star Wars in there, they would be like, okay, so they just copied Hoth, they just copied Empire Strikes Back, but the way they put it in there, it's like, hey, and it totally fits Spider-Man, where it's like, I saw this in a movie, maybe we should try it. You think maybe? So that was.
And it just shows how quick at thinking he really is.
Yeah, and all of the potential that's there, the reason that Tony recruited him. So,
and I always found it funny that the way he got Peter to stop was he was like, "I'm going to tell Aunt May."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh."
So back to the after credits scene.
Yes,
his friend was huge, and then his wrist thingy just starts exploding with light,
and he's like, "I gotta cover it," and pees over the eye, and then he's like, Spider-Man logo. Well, just the eyes and the
right.
I was thinking we might see the Iron Spider suit.
Yeah, which I feel like your constant issue with these movies is you expect stuff that's way too deep in the universe to happen that will never happen
Probably.
ever. I mean, everybody's even like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing a Civil War movie. I can't believe they're getting this far into it. Well, that was one of the main storylines of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I still have the comic at home, and I read through it the other day, and it's...
Yeah. Where, like, and then you're, where there are people like you who... I'd love to see them make a Flashpoint Paradox movie. No, I'm sorry. That's never going to happen.
I know.
But,
I got the animated movie. I'm okay.
So let's, we don't have too much longer left. Let's move into the things that we did not like about this movie.
I'll let you take this one, because...
It's fitting that we put the things that we don't like at the end of the movie, because that is what they did. Point number one, every time that they went to somewhere new and they put the graphic and the words across the screen, felt like that was the stupidest thing ever. Who's directing this? Is this the Russo brothers or is this Robin Thicke? Because I felt like I was in the Blurred Lines music video at this point.
I will look and see who directed this one. I'll let you continue, though.
Because it's just the huge white letters, just Queens.
That's when I started like,
yay. Well, yeah, but it's just I hated that text. That was so bad. It felt like a music video. But
Anthony and Joe Russo. So it was the Russo brothers.
Okay, you understand.
I know.
Because there was really no need.
Well, I didn't know if the Russo brothers actually were involved with this one. I thought they were, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I wanted to double check for my sake.
Oh, so the guy who was sitting next to us that went, is there an after credit scene? And you were like, yes, this is the Russo brothers movie. There's always an after credit scene.
It's a Marvel. I said I trust the Russo brothers. But this is a Marvel movie.
No, please dig yourself out of this hole.
To the guy. Speaking of guy at the movie theater.
There was a guy in front of us that was 75% bald, and the entirely the wrong 25% had hair.
I feel bad for laughing.
This guy is like, you would expect to see him talking to Captain Sweatpants in The Big Bang Theory. This guy was...
I thought it was Captain Sweatpants.
So he had two bald spots right here, and then this entire area right here. And then there was like a little bit of hair right here. Don't get me wrong. Live your life. Live it better than this guy.
It looked not too bad. I'm trying to sound nice.
It looked not too bad. It looked like somebody switched out his shampoo with Nair. You know that classic prank? That's what that looked like.
Let's go back to the end of the movie.
No, we're talking about things we didn't like. I didn't like staring at the back of this guy's head all night. That's what I didn't like. No, So throughout the part of the, you just take a moment. Throughout the course of this review and all of the things that we've said about what we like, notice that we've never mentioned the villain. That is because I do not know who he is.
I don't even know who he is.
Yeah, it's... And for me, and we talked about this at length in the car last night, but I felt as though the big set piece came with the fight, and then nothing happened. And they built and they built and they built where they're like, there are 5 more like me, and all of this stuff, and he's going to get him. And then I was talking in the car, and I think this is the best way to put it. Movies are like a balloon, and it fills up and it fills up and it fills up, and then it pops. Except with this movie, it filled up and filled up and filled up, and it never climaxed. It didn't pop. It just kind of...
So, my thoughts on the villain were, at the beginning, I liked him. We saw he had a motive. He wanted to activate the Winter Soldier and cause mayhem. He wanted to tear the Avengers apart. But we didn't know that he was wanting to tear the Avengers apart until the end.
Yeah, inconsistent motive too. I want to activate the Winter Soldier. No, I want to activate all 6 of the Winter Soldiers. No, I just want to mess with people.
And the part we didn't talk about, because I was kind of saving this for the ending, was the beginning. We see a car crash. We see the Winter Soldier on a mission on December 16th, 1991.
Right.
I knew that was going to play a part later on in the movie because I knew what that date was.
Right.
Like, I figured what it was when I saw him, when he goes, no witnesses. I was like, oh, this is where he's going to kill the Starks.
Right.
And then him showing it to Tony. And Steve even says, he goes, did you know? Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was him. Don't bullshit me. Did you know? Oh, dang, Tony. Tony's about to kill someone.
Right. And to that point, too, I understand being blind with rage, but we have seen in this universe everybody being so, don't hold it against Bucky. He didn't know what he was doing. All of the Winter Soldier stuff, everybody's like, okay, that's not him. Iron Man included. Like everybody's so forgiving, and then for him to just freak out, which I understand being blind with rage and all of that, but I felt like it didn't make sense for him to go so postal.
Which, I mean, we saw at the beginning of the movie the last time he did speak to his parents, and he's like, I wish it would have went that way.
Right, and it's fine. To me, it's... Obviously, I don't think he was mad at Bucky for doing it, obviously, because, it wasn't him. But, you being mad at somebody keeping something like that from you does not result in almost killing one another.
And Steve even says, I thought keeping this from you, like in the letter he put, I thought keeping this from you was sparing you. That
could have been solved with an argument.
But it was sparing me.
Right. That could have been solved with an argument. And nothing that happened over the course of almost this entire movie required the villain.
Correct.
He was just, and I said it to you in the car last night, he was just the guy in 5th grade who shot a spit wad at Tony and then turned around and he ooh, and pointed at Steve. That's all that he was.
And with General Ross putting him in check too, he was like, and Tony's like, we need to be put in check. It's like, no, Tony, you need to be put in check. Let's see, who caused most of the problems? You caused, the terrorists to get your weapons.
Mm-hmm. Which I wish somebody had fleshed out that point against him in the movie.
And he even says, Sokovia was my bad. Ultron was my fault. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Yes, Tony does. That's my problem with Tony Stark. I love Iron Man. Don't get me wrong. I love Iron Man and Tony Stark. But he always does something really, really stupid. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, I got to be this heroic guy. Like in the first Avengers, carries a nuke through a wormhole. Pretty heroic. Mm-hmm. But then in the next few movies, he's like, hey, remember that time I carried a nuke through the wormhole? Dude, okay, we get it. You saved New York. But it feels like when there's a problem, Tony's the one who causes it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what they're actually setting it up for, or if we're just all now realizing it.
Right, and it's funny how if your villain isn't going to be it's like the main antagonist in this movie wasn't the villain. The main antagonist was differing opinions.
Yeah. And
that villain you could have written this movie equally well without that guy. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue with me because and
it was a guy from Sokovia. That's what I was like. He's like, oh, my family died. I'm going to tear the Avengers apart. I studied you for a year, Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I'm just a dude. I just kind of did stuff.
He was part of an elite task force.
Everybody is in this universe.
True. That is true. I will say what I least like about this movie was the lack of Nick Fury. There was no Nick Fury.
Yeah,
Like, yes, I get he's supposed to be underground, but he could have stopped the fight. Mm-hmm. If he was like, Tony, shut up. Steve, shut up. Listen to me.
Yeah. Which I think that's why he wasn't in it.
Yeah.
You just answered, your own criticism. And that'll be, and because this is, it's interesting that, and I mean, not to just keep up with this comparison because they are very different movies, but it's interesting that we have Batman v Superman and Civil War so close together, because obviously this movie was a building block of this universe, but it did so in a way that was very entertaining, and for me, most of the movie was fantastic. Like I said, I don't like the fact that your big set piece, your big battle was like 60% of the way through the movie. But and then the rest of it, the fight between
Tony versus Bucky and Steve
was not epic in any way.
I enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was...
Okay. I would have enjoyed it just fine if it was before the big fight.
Yeah. But
after the big fight, it feels like it's not... You can't climax with that.
And like I said, I thought someone was going to end up dead in that fight. When, Steve was on top of Tony, just beating the living hell out of his suit. And then shoved his shield into his his chest piece.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to cause something to actually stab Tony, and it was going to kill him, or he was going to die from a heart attack, because it looked like he was having some sort of panic.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire movie.
But I don't know. I just
and what happened to Natasha?
I don't know.
Because after she goes, you should be the one that needs to watch their back, and then runs off. We never see her again. We don't know if she joins up with Steve in the Avengers when he breaks him out of jail.
You would assume.
I would assume so, but fans have taken a poll and they are still interested in a Black Widow standalone movie.
Right. And as we wrap up here, this movie sets up for future movies, but it does so in a way where you're satisfied with the story that it told you in this one.
Yes.
Whereas, Batman v Superman, which I think, when all is said and done, if you watch every DC movie back to back to back, Batman v Superman will be a fine movie in there. I don't think it lived up to all of its expectations as a standalone.
And I think what my buddy Zach said to me last night, it's blind love.
Yeah. And then as, this one, when all is said and done, if you watch all of the Marvel movies back to back to back to back,
they set up for everything.
And every chapter is good by itself as well. So it's great in the grander scheme of things, and it's great by itself, and that's why this movie is fantastic. And I wish it hadn't ended on such a boring note.
Yeah.
Because you had your big set piece.
I mean, there was some humor in the end. Like when Tony's reading the letter and he gets the phone, and then General Ross calls.
Right.
And he's like, I'm going to put you on hold just because I like to see the line blank.
Yeah. And then what I'm saying is, from halfway through the movie to the 60% point, that little 10 minutes or whatever was more entertaining than the last 40% of it combined. And that's an issue for me, because as much as... so as a viewer, I'm sitting there in the theater and I'm like, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome, and then you put the bad stuff at the end. And then it's like when we... I drum for, a group, and the one thing that they say is, if you get any note right, get that last note right as you hold out to the end of the song, because that is the note that people are going to remember. And this movie left sort of a bad taste in my mouth as I left the theater, because I had forgotten about all of the cool stuff. And I was in that state as I left. That being said, fantastic movie.
I will say that what I really wasn't expecting was Bucky to lose his metal arm.
Yeah.
Because I was like, does Tony have something powerful enough
and
to
then to
do
go
that?
back under?
Yeah, he was like, I want to go under until they find a way to fix me, because I don't want to be able to be activated, which is noble of Bucky. And I was hoping for the line, because it's a famous line between Bucky and Steve and they've said it in The Winter Soldier, they said it in the first Captain America. I'll follow you until the end of the line. That was their motto. That was their friendship. And I thought Sebastian Stan is a great Bucky Barnes. It's just amazing. I love this movie. And I agree. Yes, it did have some boring parts. I did like the fight between Bucky, Steve, and then up against Iron Man. Yeah. That was a great fight. And the lengths Steve went through to defend his best friend against his friend. It was
a great fight. It was not climactic. Yeah. That's my issue with it. It was a great fight.
I want to know who Martin Freeman's character is. That's what I wanted to know. The officer who's controlling the prisoner. It's like, how did you not recognize this guy? And be like, he's not the actual doctor. Yeah. So
either way, though, we will have to wait until a couple movies from now, probably, to find out about that. And so thus, I don't think we have, obviously both of us have a lot more to say on this topic, but we are starting to run a little long here. So let's go ahead and cut it off here. This has been the Making Fun review discussion for Captain America Civil War. Obviously, if you're watching this far, you've probably seen the movie. Let us know what you thought of the movie down in the comments. Keep the comments spoiler free, please. Feel
free to like and subscribe.
Yeah, totally.
Share it with your friends.
Do it.
My name's Richey Stevens.
Oh, you got it right.
That's Casey Johnson. Yeah, I did.
You got it right this time.
Yeah, I did. High five.